in general. And if you have an off day with execution, you won't perform very well. You'll have erectile dysfunction. Can you explain why a character like Kazuya is harder than Lee? In my head, it feels like Lee would be harder with all of his just frames that at high level he is fairly reliant on. Is it because of his larger tool set? You're not thinking as far as you should. And that's quite alright. You're in a position where a lot of people do that mistake. They think that, oh my god, anyone understands superficial difficulty, which is mechanical skill and execution. You go, dear lord, with Lee, anytime I hit this pickup here, it's so tricky. If I want to do a basic combo with Lee, I gotta commit to back 2 loops. Otherwise, I get no damage. My 10 frame is like a proper just frame. Super difficult. Any pickup I want to do, my god, it's tricky. And I agree, it's really tricky. There's a lot of execution, right? But what makes a character difficult in the end, it's not going to be this execution stuff, which, granted, for some people it can take a month. Some people are just naturally super gifted at this stuff and they pick it up and like, give it a week and you'll have some of these God mode guys who hang out in my chat, some of them, they'll pick up this execution stuff in like a week. They're just naturally very gifted at this stuff. But this is superficial difficulty. So you'll say, oh my god, Lee has more of that stuff than Kazuya. He's hard. He must be harder than Kazuya. And I see this all the time. And now I play a lot of Dead by Daylight, and I see the exact same reasoning. A lot of people have that. It's like people will talk to me and say, oh, Kazuya, I get it, he's difficult. Electric. That electric is not what makes Kazuya difficult. But it's true that it's a proper just frame, right? It's 1 in 60 frames per second. You gotta execute the down forward +2 in 1/60th of a second, right? And then, you know, with block stun and movement, it's very tricky. That's not the hardest part of Kazuya. The hardest part of Kazuya is, and this is harder to comprehend because you need to understand quite a bit about Tekken to understand what makes Kazuya so difficult. But if you've only played it for a short while, you'll immediately understand that. Oh god, oh yeah, oh my god, I can't do that. Oh my god, you're in practice mode, I can't do that. But once you play this game for a while, you'll understand that, okay, that's just the first stepping stone. The true difficulty of Kazuya is that you're so limited in your approach in a way that Lee isn't. Lee can carry most players. Again, he's top 5 difficulty Lee, but he can still carry people quite a bit, even in green ranks, by doing hop kicks, down forward 2s, these universal, a bit spammy tools. Most people don't punish hop kicks, for example. But with Kazuya, you are always relegated to an unbelievably predictable playstyle that is not very spammy. It's this. And all of these lose to Asuka panic buttons, Lily panic buttons, any panic button in the game, any counter hit tool in the game. So the Kazuya player will rely on matchup knowledge and the true fundamentals of this game. Character knowledge and player style knowledge, like being able to read your opponent's patterns. When does he press? What attacks does he like to use? And matchup knowledge. Kazuya has no real panic buttons. This isn't a good panic button. So when Kazuya is not busy doing these moves, that he must know exactly when to do, to not lose completely to the opponent. And it's super predictable. He's being pressured. And he's constantly blocking, Kazuya. Constantly blocking. The hardest part of Kazuya is applying his great punishment, you know, like matchup knowledge. Kazuya is forced to respect people so much. When is it my turn? When do I 1-1-2? When can I step electric? When can I duck a high to twin piston? Like the electric, most of you can get a decent electric in a month. But these hardcore fundamentals, you need to play him, like reading timing, reading patterns. When can I forward free? When can I apply my mix-up? What's -10? Where can I hit confirm that? What highs do I duck? I have 50 characters in this game pressuring me, and I don't have a get out of jail for free parry or gigantic panic button. I don't have that. I need to learn those characters in order to find my window. That's what makes Kazuya so difficult. He relies... most characters at the highest level of play rely on matchup knowledge, but he, even in green ranks, he relies on that quite a bit. When is it my turn? What can I punish? I need to respect my opponents a lot, who will play a spammier character. And then, like, you've knocked down a green rank Asuka, he tech rolls into a hop kick. You need a ton of patience. You need... It's very hard for people to know when to go in and when to fall back. So yeah, you're playing a painfully predictable character that loses to people who press buttons. So it's always going to be up to you to outplay your opponent with this character. So, and you have no options. A character like Lee has a ton of stuff he can do. He has a lot of options. Kazuya doesn't really have options. Kazuya has block, punish, vortex. And in the neutral, it's basically, well, I have an electric. Can I space that properly with really strong movement to make this work? Because your electric is only as strong as your movement. Any decent Mishima will tell you that. Your electric is only as strong as your movement in this game. And when you're not busy doing that, your neutral will be like jab, jab. Will he respect me now? You better have a reads, and then you commit. Because any of these is 20 frames where you don't even have high crush. Even though the hell sweep looks like it high crushes, it has none of that. Any button they do within those 20 frames is going to kill you. And no matter how basic your opponent is, if he knows anything about Tekken, he knows that your character is countered by one step to the left. You are so predictable. You are so obvious. Your counterplay is so easy that fundamentals is all you have. And good fundamentals in Tekken take 10 times longer to acquire than the execution needed to do this just frame. So that's what makes Kazuya so hard. And it's not immediately apparent, but yeah. Hey, Juice. I appreciate it, dude. True, but also having a few options makes the character easier to use. No, it doesn't. You can ask any competitive player about this. The more stuff you have to throw at your opponent, the more stuff they have to worry about, and that will keep them on their toes. That's why Marduk is so strong. When Marduk knocks you down, he has 100 options to throw your way. 100 options you have to worry about. He'll knock you down, and here he can tackle you. If you stay on the ground, he can insta-launch you with a ground throw. Or straight up, he also has a steel pedal. Or you tech roll, he does a 50-50. He can hell sweep, or he can launch you. Or you tech roll, and he goes into a 2-throw that kills you. 2-break. Or a 1-break. Or a 1+2 break that kills you. Insane stress and pressure. And knowledge checks are so important to have, which is why Kazuya is immediately more viable in Tekken 8, because he has some strings. He has knowledge checks. Even at the highest level, this is just utility for the character. it's a little thought trap a lot of people fall into. Well, you only need to worry about 2 moves, so that makes you easy. No, no, no. That makes the life so much easier for your opponent. You're predictable when you want to be unpredictable. I mean, we can't even point to simplistic characters having any luck in tournaments even lately. Do you think it's a coincidence that Zafina has some of the trickiest knowledge checks in the game? And tricky stuff? What do you think Kuni has? Do you think she's less tricky? Knowledge checks. Akuma has a ton of BS. Feng Wei has a ton of BS. Marduk has a ton of BS. Geese has a ton of BS. You think it's a coincidence that all of those characters have a ton of tricks in their vast tool bag to keep you on your toes, and they have some of the best frames and hitboxes and movement? It's always an asset having a big old bag of tricks, which is why there's 100 reasons why Marduk is stronger than Kazuya, but it's that Marduk can do a lot of the stuff Kazuya does, and he has 50 more options while doing it. Feng is just pokes, in my opinion. Feng Wei is everything. Feng Wei can do every single little thing in this game. He has some of the best pokes. He might have the best pokes in the game. Probably, if you want to be completely real. But there's so much more to Feng Wei than just the pokes. So much more. So characters based on fundamentals should play the waiting game against their opponent. And you gotta understand that Kuni and Zafina, they play the fundamental game as well. And they play it better than Kazuya. And they have all of this. Like, they play the fundamental game better than Kazuya. They have twice as good movement, and their pokes are 3 times as good. And their counter hits are 3 times as good. That's why you're not going to see that guy in tournaments. Like, fundamentally he loses to them, and he has no knowledge checks or BS in general. And if you have an off day with execution, you won't perform very well. You'll have erectile dysfunction. It's like, you're not going to see serious players play that guy in a tournament. It's not going to happen.